plan from here is to match some of the colors on the collage papers with mixing some paint. Just filling in, I'm thinking darker towards the bottom, lighter towards the top. I've got these grays and blues up here. Got these pinks and reds down here. So I'm just gonna put a few things on my palette. A little bit of burnt sienna. You can mix colors if that's what you like to do. You can use colors straight out of the bottle or the tube. You can use any type of paint or any type of paint pens, crayons, whatever speaks to you. I've got an old chalk paint that's similar to these colors up here, so I'm just going to put a tiny bit on with an older brush, almost dry brush. It's a fairly dried out paint. I'm just going to try to just put a little bit on here and there. I'm going to take a little bit of titanium white. Just going to use the same brush. My main purpose with what I'm doing right now is just to start to blend the collage papers in to the rest of the page. I know I'm probably going to go over all these red berries with paint, so I'm not too worried about. I'm probably going to go over the branches as well with paint, so I'm not really worried about getting a little bit of paint on them. Put a little white on my palette that I can use to blend with other things. Maybe I'll start with a little bit of pink. And that was accidental. I didn't know I had that red paint on my brush, but it's kind of fun. I like when accidents like that happen. Put a little bit of Titan Buff, which I'm going to add to my palette as well. Thinking about adding it to the burnt sienna. Definitely think I have more than enough pinks and reds on here. So I'm gonna pull out some yellows and some greens. I'm gonna stick with a yellow ochre, which is a favorite yellow of mine. And maybe I'll do just a hint of a brighter yellow. This is Azo Yellow Deep. I'm gonna pull out just the lightest green. It's a light olivine. Just a tiny bit of it. Oh, that was more than I needed. It's more than I need of all these colors. And just a tiny little bit of olive green. Just spraying my palette a bit to prevent it from drying up. So I've got almost no paint on my brush, just a tiny bit. And so it's pretty much see-through, and just a way for me to add a bit of paint in to the background of these papers. Still have no real plan, which might be obvious, might not. I'm just seeing where things lead me. A little more tight and buff. And I'm just kind of gonna blend it into this muddy mix of colors here. Somehow when you mix all the colors that you're working with, it can be a good mid-tone. I'm just gonna pull a little bit of that right through the middle. I guess at this point I've pretty much covered up all my journaling, and I kind of expected that to happen, and I feel just fine about that. It's there, I know it's there. And it was the process of thinking about it and putting it out there and recording it and putting all those thoughts and emotions out and setting those intentions. That's what that was all about. I just picked up a bunch of crimson red that I did not mean to pick up in my brush, so that's not great. I'll switch to a different brush, and just to be whimsical and fun, I'm going to switch over to an iridescent gold. This is a really light gold. that I think is a lot of fun. I'm gonna use it with this wet brush, which is gonna thin it out even more. And I'm just gonna put it around and then blend it in. I still want to put some fairy lights across the top of this, if possible, if it still makes sense when I get to that point. So I haven't been talking a lot through this process because this is when I find that the intuitive painting really kicks in, and you kind of just get lost in the process if you let yourself, and that's when I think we're at our most creative. So I just kind of got in the zone for a while. So I'm going to revisit my little paper on the clipboard that says, let's do this. I'm going to think about the journaling I did and what I might want to put on here. I'm going to put it, what's coming to mind is reach out. So reach out to people and make plans. Not what I normally do. I'm going to say be kind, and that's be kind to myself and be kind to others, even people that you're frustrated with. Slow down. I feel like I'd like to add a couple more. I'm going to say be cozy. I'm looking up at the warm socks and it's making me think about that. So be cozy. That's one of the things you can enjoy as the colder weather comes in. It's enjoying being inside and cozy. And even if it's cold, I'm going to say get outside. If you put on the right clothes and bundle up, you can enjoy being outside in any weather. So I'm going to say get outside. All right, so I am going to not paint over that. I'm going to leave that as it is. So I'm going to take a few minutes and let this dry, take a break from looking at it, and come back with fresh eyes. I changed it a lot by adding the paint, and I just kind of want to let everything dry. Off camera, I took a few minutes and I played around with the graffiti because I wanted it to say something that was a little more connected to my art journal page, a little more connected to me. I have stories because I was thinking that so much of what we do and how we feel and the things we struggle with and how we move through life are to do with our stories. And then I put in Soulful. Soulful Stories is the name of my newest art workshop, which I am busy producing right now. I filmed both art pieces and I'm producing the videos, and this course is something that's so close to my heart. I've wanted to create it since last spring, and I'm finally at the point where I'm close to being able to release it. So that will be coming out in January, and it's definitely going to be part of this season for me because I'm going to be building the course and I'm going to be promoting the course and then sharing it with the world. So that's why that's there. I'm going to now refine the graffiti and play with it a bit more, but it was something I wasn't really comfortable with, so I wanted to play with it off camera with no pressure to see if it's something that I could actually even create. So I want to go ahead and try to put the lights on for the fairy lights now. I've got another iridescent gold. This one is a bright gold, so it's a much deeper color. And I'm going to use a little bit of it. It's very heavy body, so I don't know that it's going to work well on its own. I may mix it with a bit of white, which I feel like would be the color anyway, but I'm just going to see what it's going to look like. So now if I add a little bit of white, and maybe I'll use a heavy body titanium white. And I'm just playing around. I've done fairy lights in different ways, but I just thought it'd be fun to try something different. We've got the white, and then we can drop a bit of the gold on top, and I may have to wait until the white dries, but let's just see. I think that's kind of fun, but I wonder if it would be more realistic to have the gold colored light with a tiny little white highlight. Let's see what that looks like. I've got way too much paint to be able to do anything. So let's go to the finger plan of the fingers and fingerprints and see what I can do as far as blending those. Feels like it might be way too many, but I'm just gonna go for it, and if it feels like too many, I can cover some up later. So now I'm gonna dip into the gold. I'm just gonna add gold onto each white spot. I almost wonder if I should put gold on my finger and do it that way. I'll take what I have off the end of my brush to begin with. So that's kind of fun, and I'm not worried that they're all different sizes and colors. One thing I'm tempted to do is if I were to take the brayer over, it would give me more lighter dots in different places, so it could be layered. Another thing I could do is use my etching tool and kind of turn these into circles, but if I did the layers of lights with some sort of, with the brayer, and some were faded into the background more, the only thing with that is it means I have to put more lines for more strings, and I don't know that I want to do that. Going to use my crimson red again, and just with my finger I'm going to dot onto the red berries a little bit more and just see what that does. Just going to take it straight from the tube onto my finger. Don't need to do this, but I'm just going to experiment with that just to get some pops of a really vibrant red. I'm not really sure about this flower. Maybe something that I put something on top of, or I paint a flower on top of, because it's just not really working out very well at this point. Now I'm going to take my brayer and be a little wild and crazy, and I'm going to roll across these dots. Again, I had no plan to do this. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I'm just playing. Things I like about what's happened, things I don't like. So this is leftover. It was under the graffiti that I cut out of that page, and I am actually going to rip some petals out and make a little flower here. And I realized too that these colors aren't really feeling like they fit as well with the page, and I may alter those colors as well. These are way too big. I'm going to take a little bit of gel medium and put the petals for this flower in place. The red paint is still a bit wet, and I know that, and I'm figuring that the red paint will blend in a bit with the petals, and that will all make it a little more harmonious. I can outline those after and separate the petals a bit. Okay, so that may look kind of chaotic right now, but when I define each petal and use a bit of paint or paint markers, it'll make more sense, I believe. I don't know if I want to have maybe gold lines connecting the lights as opposed to black. I feel like black might impact it too much. I'm going to use black just to connect there and just get a feel for how I feel about the black. Yeah, I think for fun I'm going to do the gold. And I'm holding at the end of this and being really loose about it. I don't mind if the lines are a little wobbly. I may end up taking off where I went around them and just have the string connecting them. I can go through after and clean that up. I'm going to take a little bit of burnt umber and a thin brush, and I'm going to just go over the branches for the vines. And I don't need to fully cover them. I can let the colors that are there show. This is just to sort of add some paint on and connect them into the page a bit more. Again, I'm holding my brush really loosely and trying not to put a lot of pressure on it. I just want to kind of lightly add some lines in. It's a little thicker than I want it to be, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. When I'm using just a little bit of paint, I'll often take it right out of the tube. I probably need a thinner brush, but maybe I'll put some on my palette and see if I can get a better shape of my brush as I do this. By using this same color on this flower, I'm hoping to create a bit more unity. I'm adding a little bit of black to my palette. And I'm going to move to a slightly bigger brush, and I'm going to just blend in on the ground here. I'm just trying to darken in the bottom and ground it a bit. Using a liquid correction pen to get some thicker white. I'm taking a little bit of gesso and I'm just going to lighten up and soften up the upper part of this page. My plan is to kind of put it on and then pull some off with my rag. I'd originally thought I might use some little bits of lace and just add them on to the dress for fun, but I think I like how the handmade paper looks even more. So I'm going to go and do that. I'm giving the child a dress instead of pants, the little piece of yellow handmade paper. Handmade paper at the bottom of her skirt. Not really sure if I want to add in. I think I'll go ahead and add the yellow in up here. Do I need to do any of this? Absolutely not. But is it fun to do? Absolutely. I pulled out my dried flowers and I was thinking about possibly using one or two of them. Just thinking, just for fun, I could put a couple flowers on. I don't want them to stand out too much and be the focal point, so I'm picking ones that are just whites and off-whites, I think, because it's just a journal page. I don't want to add on too much and anything too big or heavy. I'm thinking about a couple of these real little flowers in their baskets. Well, before I get too carried away with that, I should probably stop. I'm just going to take a tiny bit of medium. I'm not going to worry about putting medium on top of them. I just want to make sure that they're stuck on well. I'd wanted to do some journaling in white on the page, and I'm now thinking it might have made more sense to do the journaling before I put these flowers on, but too late for that now, and I'm sure I can still journal around them if I decide I want to. You can see I'm just really lightly making sure they're stuck to the page. If I want them to be really solid and strong after they're dried to the page, I can put another coat of medium on top. So I'm going to just do this and do some messy journaling along the lines of the fairy lights, along the wires. I wrote fly high, look to the sky, be filled with loving kindness, be slow and move with grace and calm. I'm just thinking about the things I journaled on the first layer. Treat yourself and others well. Stay grounded. Use your wings. I'm going to take a little bit of ink and sprinkle a little bit of white ink around. I've got an acrylic ink and an alcohol ink. I've got a wet brush, which I like because then it's going to splatter really well. Now, I can't control where this is going. There's a lot more on her than I originally wanted, but obviously I don't need to add in the white alcohol ink now, but maybe I'll do one splash of it just so you can see what it does and how different it is. So just over here along this side, I'll do one shot of alcohol ink. Hopefully I can control where it goes. As you can see, pretty much the same effect. As it dries, it'll stay that bright and white, whereas the acrylic ink, especially because it's mixed with water, may fade a bit as it dries. Loving it at the graffiti. It's kind of its weird thing on its own, but that's okay. That was a fun exploration for me. And that's what our journals are about, is not worrying about stuff like that and just exploring and experimenting. I love the mother and child that are now fairy people. I love that I've got the 3D flowers coming out of their baskets. I love the actual little flower over here. I think this is interesting. Probably in retrospect, I could have just left that out entirely, but I like that I worked with what was there and I made something fun out of that flower. Love the vines and the berries. And I think the fairy lights with the words on them are a lot of fun too. The only thing I'm thinking now as I'm looking at this is maybe I need to accentuate the lights, the fairy lights, or maybe I need to add a little bit of a yellow glow to them so they look a little less white and stand out from all the white splatter that I just put on. But that might be one of the only changes I make. I just think it's super fun, and I had a lot of fun and felt a lot of joy while I made it. And I also channeled a lot of different feelings in here and emotions, from raw emotions in the beginning to more heartfelt and warm and filled up, full cup kind of feelings that I put out at the end here on the strings of the fairy lights.